Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to day 4 of the Global Happy Home Summit, where experts from all over the globe are really joining forces to support families like yours to really overcome the challenges that you're currently facing in what's important to you and what needs to change and alter in your mind to ensure that your happy home is still possible, to ensure that your children are still okay, to ensure that you're still okay. That's really that's the foundation of why this summit is here. And it's certainly why Jeff is here. Hey, Jeff.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So Jeffrey Slayter and I have known each other for a little while now, and I've been to many workshops of his and experienced so many trainings of Jeff's. And one thing that I really love about you, Jeff, is that you say you're an absolute expert in sales and business, absolute expert. But the beautiful thing that you have too is that you completely understand human psychology and mindset. And when you combine those two, it's really quite powerful. And so I really thank you for saying yes and being here today.
You're so welcome. Absolutely. And I'm really grateful for people like you that are working with the people in homes right now that are on stay at home or home arrest, whatever you want to call it. And they're able to spend that time with their kids and an opportunity to grow for the next generation, because it's the next generation that'll actually make a big contribution. So we live in a world that is free.
Yeah.
To give, if it's okay with you, I'll share a bit about my background so people understand really the reason why is because I'd like people to take this feedback seriously and apply it, because their incomes depend on it, their ability to feed their families depend on it.
Yeah.
And they're not just on the calls for them; they're on the calls for the people that are not on the calls. Their children, maybe their partners.
Yeah.
And if they just take this like hey, he's just saying some stuff, they may not apply it, and ultimately that hurts them. And my life continues. So I grew up in Silicon Valley, which is where Google, Apple, LinkedIn, and many bigger companies have started. I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. My father was a struggling entrepreneur. He was and then he with persistence built a company while I was growing up. I grew up in that type of environment. He raised over $50 million for the first. He's the first CEO and co-founder of Odesk, which was then merged with Elance. Then now it's Upwork, which is a publicly traded company. So yes, I have my own background, but I grew up in that environment. And I used to think that was normal. I had no idea until I started to get out in the world that was not normal. So what I'm going to share with you today is some principles to help you start your own company or take your company that you're existing and pivot in these times. And many people have been dependent on jobs. And if you're sitting going, I don't have a job, maybe it's time for you to start a company so you're not dependent upon a job.
Yeah. Beautiful.
And the principles I'm going to share with you will be around those inflection points, like starting a company or leveling up. Second thing is I've spoken to over 3 million people in 13 different countries in the areas of leadership, transformation, helping people go from 6 figures to 7 figures in their businesses and beyond as well. Consulted Fortune 500 companies as well, and I've made a whole lot of mistakes as well, made a lot of money, lost a lot of money, and been through many crises myself. Never something like this though. This is an interesting time. So first thing that happened when I was actually came home here in Australia, and I said, this is getting interesting. I started noticing everything was locking down. I called my father. I said, Dad, what's happening over there? He said, oh, they're locking all the casinos down. Like he used to live in Silicon Valley, then he moved to Las Vegas, and the casinos were all shut down. Yeah. Now it's a big deal because they generate millions.
Sure.
And a day or minute probably.
Yeah.
And the streets were empty. And I said, okay, same thing's happening over here. I said, well, what do you do in a crisis, Dad? I said, because everything's changing. I had to cancel events myself. I had events that had to get moved and everything else. And my old business partner, he's one of the biggest event promoters in the world. He had 35 events in 2 months that were with people like Les Brown and even Tony Robbins. He had to move some things around. And those got canceled too. And I said, and he said, the first thing to do is to get a reality check on everything. Take stock of the money take stock on your burn rate immediately. What's the burn rate? And specifically what I mean by that is how much money does your family need to live every single month?
Mm-hmm.
So let's say it's a family that needs 10,000 a month to live. That's your burn rate. So how much does it cost for you to live every month? Okay, if you have a business, it's how much it costs to live, how much it costs to run your business. So maybe it's 10,000 for you, $10,000 a month on personal, 10,000 on your business. That's 20,000 is your burn rate. I'm giving low numbers here because I don't know where people are at. Some people that I work with, their burn rates, $250,000 a month, and they have different situations, right?
Yeah.
So then what there is to do is to get rid of non-essentials. So what could those be? Those could be subscriptions that are non-essential. Those could be it could be Netflix, not very essential. Things like that. So cut the non-essentials immediately. So then basically you become more lean. And then in that moment, after you do that, you look at what you can actually control. What things can you control? And the areas you can control is our mindset. We can control how much we're online, the amount of CTAs offers we do, and we can control the type of information we can consume.
Yeah.
So this is basically the opportunity to move. Many of you have been studying business that are listening to this, studying entrepreneurship, but yet not beginning. Now that's a lot of knowledge, but knowledge is useless unless it moves into gnosis, where it becomes experience. So this is your opportunity to start what you've always wanted to start, and now you have no more excuses. Or if you have an excuse, you got to admit to yourself that you've basically become smaller than your excuses, and you'll never make it as an entrepreneur. You'll always be a hobbyist. Mm-hmm. And so now, if you'd like to find out if you are an entrepreneur, you have the perfect opportunity to do this, because you have a lot of naysayers, a lot of reasons why it can't work. The question is, are you going to, like Dr. Demartini says, he says, I'd rather have the whole world against me than my own soul. So if you know inherently that you are an entrepreneur, this is your time to do it. And there's two reasons why. Number one, because it's your destiny, it's what you're here to do. Number two is because we're all, at this point, we're all like little notes in a grand song. And if you, listening to this, have some sort of note you're supposed to sing, and that song could be your gift to the world as far as your business, then essentially we all start singing a note in a grand song, and we start to work together again instead of apart. This is the time we no longer look at what separates us, we look at what unifies us, and each of us, just like nature, and we've lost our connection to nature, we go back to the original premise of who we are as human beings, and when we're tapped into that, we then express what we're here to express, we do what we're here to do, and we be who we're here to be, and we build the businesses, aka the change agents, the change vehicles that are necessary, but not just for you or me, but for everyone in this world. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, we string things back together, because we are the only species that's out of touch with nature. Mm-hmm. And if we can go back to that, and now we have the greatest opportunity to do that, because we've literally locked ourselves, or we have locked ourselves in our homes to literally reflect on who we are, our relationship to ourselves, our relationship to our own inner voice, our own strength, our own courage, and with no more distractions. And the only person that's going to stop you from doing what you're here to do is the person that you wake up to every single day and look in the mirror to, and that is the only person. So and you're being faced with the opportunity to deal with that person and start to love all the parts of that person that you might love the least, including the ones that are afraid of being seen, afraid of the unknown, afraid of getting started, and start to actually embrace those parts of yourself. And when you can do that, then you'll start what you're here to start, or you'll take your business and you'll pivot your business in a direction, because that's just entrepreneurism, where that you can actually be a greater service than you were at your AKA job, or potentially sitting at home, letting your time pass. And ultimately, we all lose if that's the case. So what I'm asking for is the people that know they have a fire in them to literally burn that fire. Because I know the people listening to this for myself, I had this vision. I was in the jungles and spending some time. I've taken more executives to jungles than probably majority of most human beings on this planet. Executives ranging from very high net worth to starter entrepreneurs, and jungles spending time with indigenous cultures, things like that. And I was at this particular ceremony, and everyone had done the work. And and there was about 20 different executives there. And it was my turn to do my work, because I can't expect others to turn themselves inside out and to face themselves if I'm not willing to do the same.
Yeah.
And I sat with this particular thing for the eyes, and I'm not going to say what it is, but basically it stings really, really, really bad. Like the most morbid, painful thing. And what it does is it supports us in removing trauma from our eyes, because trauma is distracting, and trauma takes away energy.
Yeah.
And where that energy can be redirected to creativity. So I was like, okay, everyone's fine. So I laid down. I was so scared. Like just terrified that this medicine is so painful, and but so beautiful, and it's it looks like eye drops.
Yeah.
And the medicine woman is like, okay, your turn. I'm like, oh great. And so I lay down on the mat, and then I look over, and I feel like I'm about to get my eyeballs like smashed out with a knife or cut out with a knife. And so I'm like kind of shaking, and then I hold her hand on the left, and then to my right I have the guy that I brought the other who's there to help me co-facilitate. Amazing man, a heart of gold. So to my left I have a woman I trust with my life. I hold her hand. To the right I have a man who I also trust with my life. And I'm like, okay. And it was interesting because the whole rest of a lot of the people in the retreat, they kind of were observing too, because this is my vulnerability, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you as a leader can't be vulnerable, then you shouldn't be leading. But there's a time for vulnerability and time for strength too. This was my time for vulnerability. Mm-hmm. And strength and vulnerability are the same, let me be clear. But there's a time to actually unfold. So then on either side, he drops it in, and it hurts so bad. And it was so painful. And she goes, it was like acid in my eyes.
Yeah.
And it was more painful than I've done this. I've done a lot of this medicine did 30 days of rowing it for a certain type of experience in order to initiate myself into a few things. But my point is this, is like, for some reason, this one hurt a lot more. Mm-hmm. And this was recent. This was basically before everything happened.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, the medicine is telling me that that there's a vision for humanity that you don't want to look at because it's so big. And I was like, who am I? Who am I to have such a big vision for humanity? I'm just some guy,
Yeah.
And and she goes, look at it. And then the pain started to go away, and kind of like the rain on a windshield. When it starts to get clear again, it started to get clear. And I saw this vision of me with my children. And I saw this future version of a potential timeline. And it was a vision where I was taking my kids through a museum. And museums are like where those things in the past that are there. Things that people used to do. Mm-hmm. Artifacts, reminders. And so I'm holding my kid's hand, I'm going through the museum, and we go through and we walk through the doors, and it's kind of like this museum that's like really beautiful. And each door has those glass things, those glass walls. And then there's a glass wall, and then my kid is looking at the window, and he's confused. And he's experiencing what they call cognitive dissonance, where it doesn't make sense in his reality. Mm-hmm. Kind of like what's happening right now. Yeah. It doesn't make sense. And I said to him, he goes, Daddy, what's that? I said, oh, those are hospital beds. Those are what they used to call hospital beds. And those are nurses that are mannequins. Those are nurses. And people used to get sick. Mm-hmm. That was the thing that used to happen. Oh, I don't. And then the kid experienced more cognitive dissonance, didn't understand that there was a world where people got sick. Mm-hmm. And then I had to explain, no, there was this thing called disease. There was this thing where we were living out of harmony with the planet, and diseases happened. And we cut down all these rainforests and all these things that held all the keys, and that's what happened, little one. He goes, oh, and that was even more confusing because that just didn't make sense.
Okay.
And then he goes, and then I go, we move to the next thing. And the next window is like soldiers shooting each other. And he goes, what are they doing? Because it just showed wounded people, and it showed, soldiers in trauma, and it showed guns at each other and anger. And the kid didn't understand either. He had cognitive dissonance too. Like, why are they doing that, Daddy? And I said, well, many years ago, they used to shoot each other because they didn't know. They looked at what separated them, but they didn't realize what unified them was that they were connected to this earth. They connected to each other, and they used to shoot each other. And the kid was mortified. Like, couldn't even understand it. That makes no sense. Mm-hmm. And I said, yeah, they had these things called borders and all this stuff. Sure. And it was confusing. He couldn't get it. And then moved to the next window, and it was really it was just rows of all the different types of fiat money, fake money, mm-hmm. of dollar bills. He goes, what's that? I said, oh, those are dollar bills. I should have put dollar bills. Those are what they call dollar bills. That's an economic system. And he goes, well, right now everything just works. Like we use other things for exchange. And in fact, there's almost no exchange because all the resources, like there's free energy, there's this, there's that, everything's just working. This doesn't make sense. Why do they exchange? Then we went to another window, and there was these dams. And he said, what are those? And he said, oh, this is what we used to do to guard off resources and cut things. Why would they do that to the earth? It doesn't make any sense. And I said, oh, what they did was they used those dollars as economic warfare to countries that had little bit of resources. They would actually put them in economic debt, and they used that as war, like you saw over there. And then they would never be able to pay it back, and they enslaved countries. That's what they used to do. And that was even more confusing. So I had to sit and explain to this little one, and I saw a vision of that this was something that used to happen.
Sure.
And then I realized, what if we were the last generation mm-hmm. that used to be dependent upon institutions, that used to give away our sovereignty? Mm-hmm. What if we were the last generation who actually took full responsibility, and we were the last generation to not take responsibility for our own well-being, our own connection to nature? And I've done it myself too, but and become dependent on other things than other institutions and give away our power. Mm-hmm. And so I guess what I'm saying is that there's a vision potential for every one of us to do our part. Mm-hmm. And that might be entrepreneurism. It might be singing, art. I don't know. They say, Terence McKenna says, the artist will save the soul of mankind. Mm-hmm. Whatever you're here to do, please do it now. And so I'll give us a couple tips on what to do if you want to start. Mm-hmm. And if you want to start a business, the first thing to do is look at where you lose track of time.
Perfect.
What are you already researching?
Yeah.
Step one. And that'll tell you where you'd like to put your time. Step two, find out who's doing what you want to do. Yeah. Okay? And something similar that's in your market. And get a look at their positioning. Step three, you must get a coach or a mentor. They will share with you the things that you don't know that you don't know.
Yeah.
And they'll save you time. Right now, you don't have time to learn all those things that you don't know that you don't know. You need someone in your court who knows. That'd be like me going into to the desert and I don't know the territory.
Yeah.
You don't have time. I would say, do what you want, learn some stuff, but you've got to collapse time frames right now because time's speeding up. Because so get a mentor that teach that in your space. So if you want to be a coach, get someone that's built coaching businesses, things like that. Then I would say, and the last thing is trust your instrument. What does that mean? It means I was on stage with Richard Branson, and before preparing for that presentation, it was a very big presentation, about 5,000 people, and I hired a guy named Joel Bauer, who was a master presenter. And I wanted to make sure this presentation was done well. And he said, trust your instrument. And I said, what does that mean? He goes, you got to trust the body. Mm-hmm. Now, the body is infinitely intelligent. The mind can't comprehend what's happening right now. And it also doesn't have the timeline. It doesn't have it's a thinker. Einstein says logic will get you from A to Z. Imagination will give you everywhere else. The mind is not necessarily the tool if you're just stuck in your mind for imagineering your future.
Sure.
So your instrument is the whole body, mind, body, spirit, all of it together. Mm-hmm. So we have to get our health right. And not like because of the crisis. I'm talking about eating right, exercise, everything, to get your vibration and get your level of instinct working at a level it's never worked before. Mm-hmm. And from there, you'll figure out the next step and the next step and the next step. And that would be some of the steps to do it. Now, if you already have a business, your next step is to pivot your business. Is to ask yourself, where is your client's attention right now?
Yes.
So right now, your client's attention is on only a few things: cash flow, surviving these times, and getting more leads. Mm-hmm. If you are a coach, consultant, or speaker, that's generally where your client's attention is. Mm-hmm. So you've got to speak to that. Right now, everyone is concerned about certainty.
Yeah.
People are concerned about well-being, surviving. They're not concerned about having a dream life at this point. It's too far out. Speak to where your clients' attentions are at. But yet, if we just help and support and be in service where we're meant to, then we're good. Anyways, that was a very long-winded rant, but hopefully it made sense.
Yeah, no, it really did. And so the few tips around, so starting a business, love those. And I really like what you said, really identify where you lose track of time. I think that's the most perfect first tip that you can have. And then in terms of people that already have their business, it's then figuring out where your client's attention is, because it has completely shifted compared to a month ago, completely shifted. So
completely.
Yeah. So I guess one of the scary things that, it seems to be coming through a bit at the moment is, okay, well, how do you still sell your product or service during these times? How do I still try and sell it in the same way? Do I still use the same methods that I used to use a month or 2 months ago? So what are you finding that is helping your clients and helping you in terms of, are you shifting that? Do you need to shift that? Do people need to be thinking about different ways of selling now?
Yeah, actually, we've pivoted a lot. Mm-hmm. So we had a program that really was the only thing we were selling. It was a $50,000 program for 1 year, and we wanted to have 200 people in it. And then we got momentum started happening, and then all of a sudden this thing happened. Wait, we need to keep these existing clients, but which we are, and they get extraordinary value. But we also need to develop something lower ticket. This is a time to build an audience. So we designed a program called Future Proof Your Vision, which is not so much focused about 7 figures and all that, or 8 figures, or whatever that is. It's about future proofing and ensuring survivability and cash flow during this time. Sure. And normally we charge a lot of money for it, but we decided to go after scale. Sorry, not scale, but numbers.
Yeah.
So we created a program that's only like $111 a week, to train people on how to navigate these times and survive and make cash during these times. And so right now our focus has become, instead of on just narrow working with some clients, being very targeted, is audience building.
Yeah.
And then serving that audience, and then later, especially when we help them stabilize their cash, and we do well with them, then they can join us in our higher end stuff. And then as that happens, we can look for investment projects together and other things, because there'll be a lot of things on sale, and a lot of investment opportunities. See, what many people don't get is that a recession lasts about a year, a depression lasts about 2 years. I'm not saying it's going to go this way, but all indicators point to that. Well, we could go into an economic depression, not recession. And during these times, there will be many opportunities to make a lot of money and also set your family up for a future where is legacy leaving, where you will look at this time as a time you actually made all the right moves at the right time with the right order with your money, where to place your money, during the transition from the industrial age to the information digital age. and you set yourself up and your family up. But if you don't know if you don't find out what those indicators are and you don't find out where to put those money, then this will pass you by, and then you'll wait for the good times. While everyone else is having a good time, you will have lost out on potentially huge gains. And number two, establishing your business, because if you can make it during this time, the good times are easy.
Yeah, yeah. And that's, you know, pushing against that comfort zone that we used to have before these last few weeks. That's what I found. You know, the dial has turned up on everything that used to be uncomfortable. Now it's extremely uncomfortable. But if I can start pushing through that and processing that and working through that, then afterwards, you know, my ability to experience that tension has just increased so much.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're getting stronger. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess how, you know, I guess one amazing sales tip would be for everybody. How do you ensure or provide so much that somebody finds it so difficult to say no to you? You know, how do you push past that doubt barrier? How do you challenge? How are you creating that situation where they just have to say yes?
Well, most people think sales is about having people say yes, but actually sales is about discovering a match. So I'm not here to have everyone say yes to me. In fact, I like it when people say no, because I don't want to be in service of people that don't want my service, and let alone I don't want them if I don't want to. Like, I pick my clients, they don't pick me. So that's an interesting distinction. Is many people think it's about getting lots of clients to say yes to you. It's actually about me saying yes to clients.
Mm-hmm.
So it's slightly different. And it does help when you have a background and experience, but I can say that it's a mindset shift, and is that let's have our clients, we say yes to clients. We interview the clients first thing. But the thing to get is that many people listening to this are not online enough and not seen enough. I'll talk about the distinction between sales and marketing, which many people are confused about. Marketing, a good example of a great marketing company is Apple. When we go to an Apple store, we walk in, like I went to an Apple store about 2 weeks ago, and I just said, I'm finally going to get a new computer because I just finally was ready to take the time to transfer the information. I go into the Apple store. First thing I did is, okay, I need a new computer. Show me which one to get. And it was not a sale. He wasn't salesy. He's just like, I'm like, look, I'm going to do this, this, and this. That's all I need. That's fine. I'll get that, whatever, that MacBook Pro thing. And he's like, are you doing video? I'm like, no, someone else does the videos. And I got this MacBook Pro. But he took my order. He wasn't a sales guy. That's really good marketing.
Yeah.
Okay. Whereas I go to JP Hi-Fi or something like that, now I'm being sold to.
Yeah.
What many people don't get is right now it's audience building time. The person needs to consume 10 hours of your content before they invest $1,000 with you. Yeah. Most people never even give 10 hours of content in a month and a half. So are you posting enough? Are you being seen enough? Is your content being read enough? And if you're not, then stop pretending like you're finally going to start a business. You have to put yourself out there. You have to be seen. I don't like being online. I like live events. But now I'm just like, well, here I am.
Yeah.
We got to do it. So consumers need to consume 10 hours of your content, and they need to see you 17 times before they actually will potentially invest into something you offer. So most people aren't marketing enough, being seen enough. Right now, you've never had another time in history where there are more people online, but you never had such a noisier time either. So what you're in, and many of us are in, are what's called an attention war. And the way you're going to win the attention war is by speaking directly to your client's attention, being seen a lot, and making more CTAs, calls to action. And the way you learn how to do this is by spending time with people who have done it and are on the cutting edge of what's happening today. So, because we're constantly adjusting. For example, the event industry shifted. Today's phone call with me was, where's it going? Is it all going to be Zoom? Absolutely not. Someone needs to create something new. What's it going to be? How are people going to create events? So we're asking different questions. If you want to get rich, we got to find out where the world's going and get there first. So people at this time should be, with their time, should be listening to people who have made billions or had major success, and learn from them and apply it to your life, because this is your greatest opportunity to make a lot of money and a lot of impact. But there's much evidence to tell you otherwise. You can either believe them or you can have results. Your choice.
Yeah. And I agree with you. Now is the perfect opportunity, no doubt about that. Especially when you've been living, not really listening to that intuition and that instrument, as you say, right? Your body's saying that there's more for you out there, and I want to achieve more. You finally got the time to do all of this stuff and actually apply yourself to what matters to you and what provides you passion and purpose. And so I guess with the mindset side of things, Jeff, because that, I'd like to get your opinion on that anyway, but I feel like mindset is really the constricting factor within business anyway. We have to work on mindset more than strategy, I feel. It's certainly been my experience anyway. So we're still, the collective is in fear mode. They're in scarcity mode. They're in that lower vibration where, things are not going to be flowing to them. So what can they be doing, parents that are watching, people that are watching, to start shifting that, to move that so we can lift our vibration, to start getting out of that fear mode and scarcity mode based on what's happening?
So I used to think, most people think that in order to change their mindset, they need to do a lot of reflectory work and listen to a lot of information. But actually, to change your mindset, you change your actions and behaviors, and your mindset will change. If someone were to wake up every day for 15 days and they never meditated before and actually do that, their mindset would change because of behaviors. I know for myself, I used to live on the ocean. I used to surf all the time. And then I moved somewhere where there's no ocean and it's mountains. And I just stopped exercising like the level I was. And as soon as I got a personal trainer that trains me 4 days a week, I had to wake up at 6 a.m. 4 days a week. And that action changed my mindset. Because every time I'm about to stop, he pushes me further. And that muscle gets then transferred to my business. It gets transferred to my relationship with myself, how much more I'm made of, whom. So all parts affect all. So to change your mindset, for those of you listening, change your behaviors and your mindset will be adjusted. And that's how. But if you need leverage, I was once with my coach who had been training holographic level NLP, and NLP itself, and family systems work from Bert Hellinger. Absolutely, there's NLP and then there's this guy. He shouldn't be called it, but it's from NLP Marin, and his name was Carl Bruchheit. And at the time, in the beginning, I used to do a lot of one-on-one clients. I don't take one-on-one clients anymore for transformation work.
Okay.
And I used to do a lot of sessions. And one woman, I was in Singapore speaking, and one came up to me. She goes, "I want to change my kid's mindset. Can you work with my kid around their mindset for school?" And I just was like, no, I don't really work with teenagers, but I'll check in. So I called Carl. I said, "Carl, I get asked to change these kids' mindsets when I know inherently it's the parents." And he said, the best work a parent, tell them the best work their parents can do for their children is the work they do on themselves.
Yes.
It's not what we say to our kids, it's how we're behaving. That matters. They learn from that. I can't tell you, yes, my father sat down with me and taught me a lot. But what I learned from my father by who he was persistent, resilient, and he had integrity with himself. He honored himself. I don't mean like integrity out there. That's great. I'm talking about having integrity with ourselves. And he had integrity with himself, and he was persistent. And every time he got knocked down, he kept going, and he didn't have any excuse as to why. He would literally tell us, when we'd go to the grocery store, and the credit card didn't work. We were broke. And then Dad would just disappear. Where was he? Running around the world at trade shows, speaking, sharing, and doing sales while he had 3 weeks left to make the payroll. He was hustling. He did everything he could. He literally had no excuses. He was bigger than his circumstances. He could have told me that a million times, but if he was busy sitting on the couch, I would have got that.
Sure. Yes. Yeah, it would have been totally misaligned. So the messages
Completely.
that we speak compared to our actions that we take, unless they're aligned, then children don't believe it. So they're far smarter than we give them credit for. And I have these conversations with my clients all of the time too. And that's why now I will work with parents, and it needs to be both, because unless they're okay and unless they're working on themselves and everything they've got going on, then their children are not okay. It's as simple and as complicated as that. I'm certainly experiencing with my clients too.
100%. And I'm so glad that like you are picky with the clients you work with, because you need clients that actually take action, because the things you say, if they apply it, it makes a difference.
Yes,
And it changes not just the client's life, it changes our children. And then those children's lives get changed and their children. It's a butterfly effect.
absolutely, no doubt. So at the moment, when there's stress coming from parents or anxiety coming from parents, and we've got children in the home, then what's the flow-on effect of that in your eyes?
Slavery.
Mm-hmm.
The flow-on effect is a, the kid needs to start questioning. This is the time to question everything around them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is the time they start asking, sourcing for, become thinkers themselves, become creators. We don't need more sheep. We need thinkers. We need people who pave their own path, way showers.
Yes.
They're like, I've this is unprecedented times. I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah.
And I know that I can't do this on my own.
Mm.
I'm just gonna sit here in my, little makeshift studio with my iPhone, because Apple has my computer, and do what I can.
Mm.
But I feel pretty helpless sometimes. But I know that those kids that are 5 to 15 years old, they might have some they might have some of the DNA and codes that are necessary to carry us into a world where we're free. Because now we're seeing that we're not free. We've never been free. It was profitable for us to be free, but we
Yes.
were never to think we were free, but we were never free.
Mm.
And now we're coming to terms with that. But perhaps those children, if they used their imagination again, if they were encouraged and they had good clean food, clean water, and they connected with nature, perhaps they could activate the information necessary so that they live a sovereign life. And so,
Mm.
but I can't do that from just here. But I'll just do my part, and everyone does their part.
Yeah.
And ultimately, we work together, and we get a free world again. Well, actually, not again, a free world.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because I mean, in 2 weeks, everything has been completely taken away, which means we had no control in the beginning. We never did, just like what you said. It was
No,
no, it was never there.
it was
Um,
never there.
so before we wrap up, Jeff, I guess you're so good at tapping into what intuitively people need and the collective need. And at the moment, is there anything that we haven't touched on that you feel like would be helpful for parents, people to know right now if they're watching?
When did? How amazing would it be if you use this time to find out what you're really made of as human beings? How amazing would it be if you use this time to reconnect to the gift of life and the gift of your children and the gift of having breakfast in the morning and the sun rising? And how amazing would it be to tap into your soul's mission and actually do it and express it?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is our time that we discover what we're made of. And we are far more powerful and far more empowered than we ever gave ourselves credit for. And I see humans and what's possible when we work together instead of apart. So I'm so glad that we're collaborating here, and the people listening have taken the time to collaborate with you. And I'm glad for the work you bring, because you're looking after our next generation.
Thanks, Jeff.
So you're welcome. Yeah.
And thank you for those final words. Yeah, that hits home. So I like to finish off with 2 final questions, Jeff.
Okay, cool.
So first question is for you personally, what have been the opportunities in the last couple of weeks? What have you been able to experience, do, see, feel that, you know, if COVID-19 and this didn't happen, you might never have? What's been magical about it for you?
So much. I was on a beach and we lit a bonfire that was like, sorry, the dog, huge fire, like huge.
Yeah.
I must have been like 15, 20, like 20 feet of wood, and it was collected all day.
Uh-huh.
And it was at a private island. And and we put some, and everyone gathered around this fire.
Uh-huh.
And it was my responsibility to light the fire, and we put some offerings in there, and we lit this fire. And when I lit the fire, I prayed that humanity burns away everything that's not useful.
Mm.
And you know, they asked how they made the statue of David, Michelangelo. He said, I chipped away everything that wasn't David. I was left with David. So I said, when I light this fire, I asked that we burn away everything that's not useful, and we're left with life.
Mm.
And so I lit it, it went up. And there was this rope swing this guy is an extreme athlete, like he is actually I don't know, Xterra or whatever it is, top in the world, right? And he decided to grab the rope swing, and I look up and there was people playing music around this fire. It was everyone knew everybody on this island. And then I looked up and the fire was burning, and there was one of these guys just swinging on a rope swing like swinging around. He's a daredevil, but near the fire, and the moon and everything and the ocean was there. And I was like, life is such a gift. It's so magical. And so that was a magical moment for me.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, it was just so special.
Yeah.
And
that is beautiful. Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
So that was special to me. And the other thing that's special is to pivot online and reach far more people. I'll reach, even though I speak all over the world, like in events, I'll reach way more people this way.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I've had a few others share the same thing with the opportunity. Now they're reaching a far bigger audience.
Yeah.
So that's a huge one. Thanks, Jeff. And the final question is, what does a happy home look and feel like to you?
I got a dog over there that sleeps like 90% of the time. I got lights up here. I don't know, dinner's being made right now. I'm on the phone with you, like doing what you're here to do. I'm doing what I'm here to do. And I got my sweatpants on below here that are like really comfortable with my comfy flip-flops and my house slippers on. And I'm pretty good.
Yeah.
Like this is my happy home. And I got my dried mangoes over there and my water over here and a plant friend over here. Like, this is awesome.
Yeah. It's all the simple stuff.
It's the simple things. It's the simple things.
Yeah. Big smile. Makes you super happy. Yeah, that's really nice. So for those of you watching, if you've got any questions or comments or anything for Jeff, then just place them in the comments, and Jeff and I will make sure that gets to them. For people that are interested in what you have to offer, Jeff, or to get to know you more, where is the best place for them to find you?
Yeah, they should follow me on Instagram, and it's at JEFF Slayter. At Jeff Slayter, JEFF SLAYTER. And there's IGTV. I'm always posting content, and then of course follow me on Facebook and stuff, and just funny content. I'm always sharing things to help them grow their businesses and make cash.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Well, I thank you so much for joining me this afternoon, Jeff. I really do. I always love listening to you, so I'm really grateful. Thank you.
Good to connect with you too. Bye, Jessica.
Bye for now. Bye, everyone. And thank you for joining us.